Hey, lighten up, jerk!
I've never been the most outgoing person, but it's funny because I feel like I talk the most out of all my friends, as you can tell.
Well, in this context, it's fine.
Yeah,
you're the guest, and you have to talk. So the fact that you're talking, you're mostly talking.
You're really hogging up the airtime.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing, though. It's a good thing. Don't let Snarky McGee over here persuade you.
Damn, I talked to
You're hogging up my airtime, dude.
Yeah. But like, I think it was part of a journey for me, right? Like, I also drove for Lyft for a couple of years, and like that also taught me, like, hey, like Kevin, like you have to be able to engage with people that you've never engaged with, and that you're never gonna see them again.
Mm-hmm.
How, like, can you make, not necessarily, can you make an impression on them? Mm-hmm. And if not, like, how are you going to fill the space that you have for like 30, 45 minutes while you drive this person from point A to point B? I kind of feel similar about escape rooms, and just like. I have students who are like just so introverted and so shy, and they're like, like, I don't know how to talk to people, right? I have one student who just, like, it was heartbreaking, actually. I took her to an ice cream shop, and at a lot of ice cream shops, you get free samples. You get as many samples as you want.
Yeah, you go to Menchie's, get a little sample cup.
Yeah.
Go
so
nuts.
Like ice cream,
go nuts.
froyo, all these things, right? And I was like asking for this sample, this sample, this sample. She wasn't asking for any samples, which is really odd to me. I was like, dude, it's free ice cream, right? Yeah. And then
Baskin Robbins gave me those free samples.
And then she turns to me and she was like, this is the worst part of my day. I was like, what's the worst part of your day? We're getting ice cream. And she's like, no, talking to strangers.
Oh.
And I think, we kind of talked about this right before the show, but just like the fact that so many people are looking at their phones all the time, right, especially with the younger generation, and I see it, right, with like the parent. I kind of understand, right, with how both parents go to work and are trying to give their kid the best life, but in order for them to do that, they have to leave their kid alone, and so they just give the kid an iPad, or they give their kid an iPhone or like a laptop or something like that, and they're like, hey, do what you want, right? But it's almost socially stunting a lot of the people around us.
Yeah, because I remember I was out with my cousin and her husband and their kids at this restaurant, and I just, as we were eating and talking, whatever, I just kind of looking around, and noticing all the kids with iPads and just looking down, just like, as their parents were, talking or whatever, or just, having lunch. And I was like, this is kind of tragic. Yeah. Because, what is it? Because when growing, three of us here, like, I think we could safely say that we didn't grow up with that. If our parents, dragged us to dinner with their friends, we were forced to just sit there and, like, either deal with it, and and I think that kind of takes away from, like, kind of like, that something is being lost there. A lesson is being lost or not being taught in that moment. It's like, okay, I know this isn't, and the lesson is, like, I know this isn't the place that you'd want to be, but you just have to make the best of it, and you maybe even, like, let the even kid get involved with the conversation. That, how do you learn to talk to people? Get them to talk to people. Get them to talk to older people. And I think that'd be the best kind of practice for when they get older. And but now, like, kids, like, to keep them quiet or whatever, the parents will just shove an iPad in their face and it's like, okay, just shut up and leave mommy and daddy alone to have their adult time. It's like, no, just get involve the kids, get them involved, or teach them to, like, suck it up and and just endure. Yeah, I think that's the lesson that is not being taught these days is endurance. Yeah. And not just like, so it's just like, being in a place that you don't necessarily want to be, but,
kind of just have to push through it.
Yeah, push through it. Yeah, suck it up and, either engage or just sit there. Because I can't but tell you how many times I went out with my parents and, like, with their friends, and I was like the only kid there, and I had to just, like, sit there, or I had to, like, engage in the conversation somehow in my limited capacity.
Yeah, there's a book that came out. I don't know if this is necessarily recent. It hit like a bestseller list called Modern Romance by, I believe, Aziz Ansari wrote it. And I know that he went through some stuff.
Yeah.
But
rightly or wrongly, rightly or wrong.
But he made some great points in that book, especially in the sense that like it's talking about how back then, like marriage, that whole culture was not about like it wasn't necessarily about the romance, right? You didn't marry somebody because you were romantically interested in them. You married them because there was a purpose to it. Like, oh, this person, I'm marrying you because you're going to help me on the farm, right?
Yeah.
True.
And like but the romance would develop afterward, right? And he was just making, it was basically like a book of social commentary on how social media has changed the way that we interact with one another.
Absolutely. Cell phones have changed everything.
So like just looking at some of my kids and my students, whenever I say my kids, people think like you have kids. Yeah. But whenever I look at some of my students and just like that inability to engage people, like it almost makes me want to cry. You know, like just like wow, like what generation are we growing up in that like the only way that we know how to engage people is through the presentation of ourselves through this media that other people could do, right? Like one of my favorite examples is again going back to Facebook, how someone can post something, and then you can spend 45 minutes or like even a couple of days trying to come up with the best way to make a comment on this picture that will present you in like that to make you sound funny or to make you sound really smart. It's like an illusion of who you actually are, because in real life you don't get 45 minutes to present who you are.
Nope.
You get like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. But like, so either you have to learn the social skills to be able to present yourself that quickly, like on the spot, or you have to be very comfortable with who you are. And
that's pretty interesting, because I remember just recently that this influencer on Instagram that I follow, she put out this post, I guess she got like this partnership with Lyft or whatever, and said, oh, use promo code whatever and get however many % off. And then I just like immediately, it's like I know what to say, so I know what to comment. It's like, oh, I don't really use Lyft. I think I'm a pretty good driver. Yeah, especially after a few drinks. It just seems like the cars just get out of my way from me. Right? It was just like it just came to me that quickly. It was just, because I was riffing off of what she was like saying too. Because like, oh, like I think it was like during some like holiday weekends, like, oh, get home safe and blah blah blah. Be responsible, get home safe. And so I was like, I made a drunk driving joke,
but off the top of your head.
But off the top of my head. But it was just because of like the practice and like, being able, kind of exercising that muscle,
Yeah.
It's like the more you use it, the quicker things are going to happen for you.
Right. Yeah. I believe like the way that you perform socially, it is a muscle basically. Like there's a muscle memory to it. So like even for me, somebody who sucks at small talk, like I'm getting better at it because I'm constantly shoved into situations where it's like, oh, like I have 5 seconds to make an impression on this person. What do I say?
What do you think about the weather?
It's kind of hot, but yeah, I still suck at small talk. But it was watching some of the kids, right? Like it's really weird being interesting. Because I don't feel like I'm that interesting, but like some of my students are just like, dude, how do you know so much, right? Or how do you experience so much?
Experience. That's what it is.
Just get out there.
You have to put yourself out
just
there.
Get out there.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's funny because I was seeing this coming because there was this one kid I know. He's not a kid anymore, but it was one of my not directly one of my students, but a student back when I used to do Sunday school and stuff. And another church was doing like this basketball tournament thing, and he literally asked me, "How do I ask to get involved? That our church get involved in this?" I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, what do I say?" It's like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, I want our church to be involved in this, but like, how do I ask? I was like, just go and ask. It's like, oh, hi, pastor. Did I send a call or send an email to the pastor? It's like, hey, pastor, what so and so? It's like, I would really like our church to participate in this basketball tournament that you're putting on. Please let me know the details. Please let me know. And I literally had to tell him what he had to say to get involved in this basketball tournament. I was like, just go ask. Like, ask how you would ask for anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's probably a host of different factors, right? Just involved with why people are not able to do these things anymore. Like, obviously, we're pointing to social media as one of the big things, right? But
I mean, this was like back even before, like, Facebook or like even MySpace were like really that big. And I mean, and yeah, this kid kind of is kind of a little bit on the awkward side. He was already kind of a little bit awkward, but it's just like.
But like that's the thing, right? Like I think that I hate to bag on social media some more, but we've gotten to a point where, like, again, people get to present the best side of themselves, and they never see the ugly sides of what's going on.
Right. That also reminds me of like kind of like this kind of inspirational kind of quote, but of don't compare someone's highlight reel to your behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. I don't know if that's necessarily popular in churches, but I've definitely heard it before. And I don't think that social media is helping in the sense that it's presenting people with, like, I have a kid. I have multiple kids actually who they just they compare themselves to those highlights, right? Like you said, and they like there's a reason why like depression and suicide rates are freaking rampant right now, especially among teenagers, and like drug use and all this jazz. Is just kind of like, man, like what are they going through? And I think the reality is just like, hey, like they're like people before this age, like we've never really had this rampant of a problem with the youth before,
or it wasn't like as constant, because I mean you could kind of see like back in the day, like those teeny bopper magazines as kind of
but it's not the same thing.
It's a form, but it's not something that you carry around with you constantly, and then you constantly get notifications about. Just every month a new magazine came out and a new like cover person that you're supposed to like envy or emulate. But nowadays, like you have your smartphone, you have your Instagram, you have your Facebook or what have you. So it's like this constant. It's always with you, and it's constantly letting you know that some other person is being quote unquote awesome.